Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our podcast, a podcast about the world of UX, UI design, and much, much more. I'm Diana, your host for this episode. Today, joining me is Carlos Briceño. Hi, Carlos. How are you?
Hi, Diana. How are you? I'm good. I'm glad to be here and talk to you about UI, UX, and much more.
Excellent. So, Carlos is our project manager at Go Agency. We all know that one of the many tasks of a project manager is to bridge the gap between the client and the team. I want to talk a little bit about our motto, look for a new angle. Under this motto, we always face challenges that we have mastered, and that have made us grow as a team. Every time there is a challenge to overcome, we actually look for a new angle. At Kuo, we specialize in a variety of services such as UI, UX design, CMS, automations, and software. However, from time to time, we have clients with a very specific need. Then we have to look for new angles, as I mentioned before, and even develop applications that meet the needs of the client. So, this is the case of one of the clients that we had recently, where we had to synchronize inventories for their food business. So, Carlos, my first question is regarding what the client actually does. So, can you tell me a little bit more about this particular client?
Of course, happy to tell you about it. So this client specifically, it's a producer and distributor of superfoods. They produce them, as I just mentioned, and they pretty much have their main distribution point. It's their BigCommerce websites. In this case, they use this specific e-commerce platform to host their wholesale and retail websites, and they wanted to integrate their two websites with their inventory specifically, and that's how everything started for us in terms of creating this new application or custom application for them.
I understand. So would you say that was the most important aspect of this project?
Yeah, the most important aspect was synchronicity, basically. Being able to have this some kind of triangle, to call them somehow, and it's the wholesale website, the retail website, and their inventory. And those three aspects are very important because their inventory, they use it for not only have managed their inventory of their final products, but also they produce their, as I mentioned, they produce their own superfoods. So the whole production chain, it's there on their inventory. So whenever they produce new units of these items, of this product, it's supposed to synchronize with their BigCommerce websites. And that's very key because, again, to do it manually, specifically in this case, when they have a very vast a variety of a catalog of different products, it's key for them to be able to automate part of the process. And to do it this way saves them a lot of time and actually helps them a lot in that regard. Also, they wanted to synchronize create invoices whenever they got a new order on either their wholesale or retail website. And they used to do it manually, quote unquote manually, exporting the information from BigCommerce and uploading it to DEAAR. And now it's with this integration of having the synchronicity between both platforms, BigCommerce and DEAAR, that's not necessary. It's automated. So whenever someone places a new order on either the wholesale or the retail website, it automatically it's added to their sales on DEAAR inventory, and that all obviously also affects the inventory there. And yeah, I think that's pretty much sums up what the process was, or what our client asked for and what we worked on.
Absolutely. This is going to be very important for those who don't know, but can you tell me a little bit about the difference between DEAAR inventory and BigCommerce?
Of course, both, DEAAR inventory is a platform, a third-party app that allows users to be able to work on, to be able to manage their inventory mostly. That's their main focus. It's a very comprehensive app with a lot of integrations available for it, and very robust or well-documented API. So from DEAAR in that regard, there's a lot that you can do and you can integrate with because of that. But the difference between that, of managing the inventory, and BigCommerce is an e-commerce platform that allows you to host your website, your e-commerce website, and pretty much do whatever e-commerce does. Allows you to place your products there, showcase your products, allow people to buy them online using different kinds of payment platforms or payment gateways like credit cards or PayPal or Apple Pay, Google Pay, and else. And pretty much that's the difference. It's an e-commerce platform. BigCommerce is an e-commerce platform, and DEAAR inventory is an app that allows you to manage your inventory.
Very nice. Let's talk about another member of the team that worked on this project. Carlos, who developed the application for the client?
The application was developed by Maria from beginning to end. She is great. She's our full stack developer. She's amazing. And she has a lot of different projects in her resume that has worked for, she has worked for us in different projects for almost 3 years now, over 3 years now. And it's been great to be able to have her on our team. And she's very, not only responsible, but also very efficient and effective, great with communications, and it's always a pleasure to work with her in any project that we have in store.
Absolutely. She has done a great job indeed. Carlos, what is the API for integration between the BigCommerce and the DEAAR inventory platforms?
So we had to create an API to be able to manage this integration. It's completely custom, but it obviously uses, it calls to DEAAR's and BigCommerce APIs. Both of them are very well documented, and that's super helpful. Whenever you have any kind of API integration, it's key for us to be able to have the documentation available. And some platforms do it better than others, but in this case, both of them, BigCommerce and DEAAR inventory, have great. It's available, very easy to get this information. And yeah, we didn't really have any questions in regards to how something worked. We didn't have to contact support of any of the platforms or anything. We had everything at our disposal. In this case, at Maria's disposal for her to test how the APIs work and begin with the work. And at the moment, no complaints in that regard.
Oh, awesome. You know that it doesn't really matter what field you are working in. Working on something new, facing challenges, new challenges, and overcoming them, it's necessary because it makes you better and it actually enrich you, not only as a person, not only as a member of a team, but also as a whole unit, as an agency. So my last question for you would be, how do you think the experience enriched us as an agency overall?
It was an interesting challenge to work with this specific integration because it has special requirements. One of them that I didn't talk about earlier, I forgot to mention, but I'm going to talk about it now. It's that our clients needed to have some kind of cushion of inventory. Like I mentioned before, that these three key aspects, or how do I call them? These specific elements, the e-commerce, wholesale e-commerce, the retail e-commerce, and DEAAR inventory, these are supposed to be in sync. And part of that, obviously, is because they want everything to work as a unit. Like if someone buys something from the wholesale website, then it's supposed to also affect the retail website as well, because the root of everything, the warehouse where the inventory is, it's the same for both websites, for the wholesale or the retail. So before it had to be done manually to have it some kind of synchronized, and now it's automatic. But also it's very important that whenever they create new products, whenever they create new products and it's part of their website or their inventory, it's also available on their website without they having to do that manually, because they have a very a vast inventory or different kinds of products in their catalog. With that said, they want to have a cushion for their inventory, because you never know whenever you have any kind of damaged product or anything like that, and you don't want to oversell in that regard, and then having an unsatisfied client or customer because they received something that wasn't working, or it wasn't high quality or the quality they expected, or they had to get a refund because there weren't enough units in their inventory to satisfy this demand. And they always wanted to have a cushion, so whenever something is synchronized on DEAAR's inventory, from DEAAR inventory to the BigCommerce websites, they have less units. They have a cushion, so they always show less units in their inventory on BigCommerce compared to what they have on DEAAR, to make sure that they have this kind of cushion for whenever try to not oversell and have to refund clients or have unsatisfied clients or customers. So that's something that was very important. And so each of the requirements, going back to your question, I didn't forget about it. Each of the personalized and requirements that we have for the project, it was a challenge itself, because we have to make something custom to satisfy the needs of the client, and using two platforms that we were familiar with, but we were familiar with BigCommerce, not with DEAAR until then. And we have to get familiarized with this platform. And as I mentioned before, we were lucky enough that the API documentation was pretty clear and available for us. But it was a challenge itself, because it was like making sure that what is in paper, the theory of the API documentation, it actually worked that way. And the custom API that we created works as the client expected, and that they were completely satisfied with the results at the end of the day. That was our main challenge, and Maria accomplished it. She did great. The application works amazingly. And it's something else that I wanted to mention. It's that obviously there are options like just having a software like Parabola or a third party like Parabola or Zapier or Make, which was Integromat in the past. But in this case, for the specifics that the client or the specific requirements that the client had, it was key that it was something custom. And there are other advantages of having something custom. Obviously, there's a little bit more of time in terms of maintenance, because you don't depend on a third party to maintain everything.
Exactly, absolutely.
But there's definitely more control over it. How everything works, it's you can scale it up if you want to. If you want this app or a specific custom application to grow in the future, make it do other things or synchronize it with other platforms or anything like that, it's easier to do so now that there's some kind of base or yeah, I don't know how to call it. There's like the base of the app or the base of the structure of the app, it's there, and that's very important. You can scale it up.
It could be like the foundations of the app.
The foundation of the app, yeah. Sorry, the foundations of the app are there. The structure of the app is there, and you can scale it up in the future if you want to, and you pretty much have complete control over it. You don't have to pay us monthly subscription. That for some of these third-party apps, it can get pretty expensive, especially if you have something like this, which is process after process with every single sale that you make. Whenever you update the inventory, there's several times, especially if you have a lot of traffic on your website and a bunch of sales a day, it can get pretty expensive whenever you're paying for a subscription or to Zapier or Make or something like that. In this case, you're paying for a server, obviously, where the app is hosted, but it's way less expensive, like a tenth of what you will be paying more or less on Zapier or any of the other apps, which, by the way, are really useful and we use them all the time. But for specific cases like this one, it was required for us to have a custom application.
Yeah, and it's only beneficial for the client to find ways not to pay, not to overflow your budget, okay? Not to spend more than you are expected to spend in your initial or your annual budget, for example. Carlos, thank you very much for joining me in this conversation. I really hope to talk to you again in the foreseeable future.
It was great talking to you as always.
Wonderful. So that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to us and being part of this experience. So I will see you next time. Okay? Bye.
Bye. Up.